All right, friends and family, how you doing? I was recently asked a really good question. What's happening with the market? See, that's a great question because it's somebody who is seeking understanding, not screaming noise and panic into the atmosphere. So let's talk about what's actually happening with the market. So, what's the difference between a market correction and a crash, and which one are we currently experiencing? Great question. So, a market correction over here on the column left, you'll see home prices drop by about 10% from the peak, gradually, usually over 6 months or more. Supply and demand has leveled out. When you look at a crash, you're looking at about a 20% from peak, and it's sudden. It's right now, right? Demand drops while supplies increase. So what does this mean? So when you say demand drops, right, our language would say days on market would increase. So as the demand drops, you would see days on market drastically increase. And then you would see supply increase, right? So you would hear us say, oh, there's 6 months of inventory, there's 3 months of inventory. Often in slang, it's referred to as a buyer's market or seller's market, right? And so if we look at these and say, okay, a market correction can be healthy to reset hot markets. Does that sound familiar? Inventory will replenish, prices will stabilize, and supply and demand will level out. A market crash is quite different. It's a catastrophic imbalance in inventory, prices, supply, and demand. What does that mean? That means if we were in a correction, which I would argue we are, if we're in a correction, right, you're going to see prices come down, which they have, gradually over time, which they have. I'll show you here in a second, right? Versus, we're clipping and then wham, they just drop. We have a nice gradual curve on the line. I'll show you. And then it says price inventory, right, and demand stable out. So what you should see is record low. I mean, remember, at the peak, we were sitting, some cities were less than 1 month's inventory. That's not normal. 2 months, 3 months inventory is still considered a seller's market, right? So when we look at that, we would anticipate in a market correction from record low inventory, we would anticipate the supply going up to 3-4 months. 3 or 4 months arguably is a seller's market. I could be convinced 4 is starting to be a normal market again. 4 to 5 months, 6 and above, you start getting into a buyer's market, right? And then you would expect that to then see days on market upwards of the 45, 60 days, stuff like that, right? Okay, now that's in a correction. In a crash, supply just ping, 6, 7, 8, 9 months of inventory, right? That's what that looks like. Days on market, 60, 70, 80 days on market, 90 days on market, right? Now, some of us are experiencing homes sitting on the market longer than that, not because we're crashing, but quite frankly, because we're frozen, right? We don't know what to do. Buyers are like, oh, interest rates, and sellers are like, oh, equity. And a lot of noise is coming from the industry. And so maybe questions you should be asking of your agents or your preferred agents or people you're in business with is, how many deals did you do last year? How many deals did you do the year before? Right? If you're talking to someone that's only doing 3 or 4 deals a year, chances are they're not studying the numbers appropriately, and they're just speaking out and regurgitating the noise that they hear. So if we're going to say, is the market correcting or crashing, let's look at 2 things that can help us decide what this is. So the first one we're going to look at, we're just going to scroll down right here, right? This is just the city of Glendora. I say again, just the city of Glendora, okay? And I went back to 2006. I remember in 2010, it'll never outpace 2006 again. That was it. That was the end. Highest real estate will ever go. Okay. In the city of Glendora, in 2006, the median sales price was $490,000. Now watch this trend. 2008, we were down to 480. Arguably in 2009, look at that. That's right now, right? We're down 27 plus the 2 is 29. I couldn't get the percentage change from 2005 to 6. Otherwise, I'd have that in there. Arguably, probably another 3%. So we're sitting on 29, probably 32 to 33% equity hit between 2006 and 2009. Now, so we're talking about prices going down, right? Drastically or not. This is obviously over an extended period of time, but we went from May of 2009, which was the bottom of the market, to June of 2020. Now, June of 2020 is fun only because of COVID. But if you were going to go from May of 2009, it's weird that they're both May. May of 2022 was the peak, right? Look at that swing, right? You've got 125% swing. That's just in the positive. Plus that, it's about 150% equity swing from 2009 to 2022. It's an incredible run up in the market, right? Now, when we say the market crashes, here's that sharp decrease in price. Here's the massive uptick in supply. Look at this, 8.7 months supply. That's the inventory, right? Drastically increased with a drastic increase of days on market, right? What does it say right down here? A crash, catastrophic imbalances in inventory, price, supply, and demand. Catastrophic between price, inventory, right? Supply and demand. Okay. Now look at May of 2022. So this is a record low, May of 2009. May of 2022 is a record high. They're in balance, right? It's the same. We never talk about catastrophic on the high because everybody's taking equity. But this is a catastrophic high. These are two polar extremes. And so what we're trying to figure out right now is, okay, we're ticking down. What does that look like? So from May to December, so you got June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 7 months, slow and steady. What did you see? You saw this. May, June, look at this. Gradual decrease. Now, Glendora, we popped up for a little bit in September. Don't be mad at us. And then we dropped back down with the rest of the market, right? And then we're slowly decreasing. This is a steady decrease as opposed to, if we go back, right, a very sharp pow pow, crazy town. Okay, look at that. Very different, right? We're going to go back to the 3-year mark. So when we're here, we're saying, okay, is the market going to correct itself? Because in a correction, what happens? A market correction can be a healthy reset. Inventory will replenish. Prices will stabilize. Supply and demand will level out. Okay, look at this. Supply, it hasn't leveled out, right? Look at this. 2.1 supply. That's nothing. That's a hot seller's market, right? This should be in the 4s, not out of balance in the 8s, in the 6s. It should be between 4 to 6 months of inventory. Supply hasn't leveled out. Now, remind you, you hear numbers that say housing supply is up 100%. Well, yeah, when you go from 0.8 to 2.1, of course, right? And when they say from the peak, we've fallen, of course, that's just to get you emotional. But look at the data. Okay, here's what I think is fun. Days on market. Again, this is just the city of Glendora, just for December of 2022, 18 days. Again, that's not normal. That's still a seller's market, right? So it's an incredible time to sell your house still. Now, you might say, Ryan, I don't want to sell my house for $760. I still want to get $895. I hear you. You missed the train. There's nothing I can do with that. Sorry, right? That just is what it is. But have we leveled down? Sure. What does that mean? Okay, if we're only down from the peak, we're only down 15%. Okay, look at this. If from 15 to, let's just say this is 29 combined, right? We would need another 14% hit in equity in order to equal the same sort of crash, right? If we lost another 14% of equity, if we dropped another 14 to be on pace with the housing crash, then the median sales price of Glendora would be $653,000. Okay, that's great. What does that mean? That means we would just be back of June of 2020. There was so much artificial increase in price, right, that we could lose the same amount of equity that crashed the market in 2008. We could lose the same exact amount of equity and people would only be back to right after COVID. It's an incredible time, sellers, to sell your house. If you're thinking about leaving the state, you didn't miss the market. You can still get a great price for your home. Did you miss the gravy train? You did, right? You missed 15% of equity, so you missed 15% of value. You missed, honestly, which is not calculated in here, there were times, sellers, where you were not paying for termite repairs. You were not paying for requests for repairs. You were not giving concessions. You were not buying down interest rates, right? You were saying, I want 800 and you were getting 820, right? And that was it. They were just taking your house. We're not there anymore. And that's okay, right? That was record-breaking stuff just as much as 2008 was record-breaking lows. What we're doing now is we're correcting. This is a normal thing. If you go back and look at the history of real estate, you see this. It's just cyclical. It goes up and it goes down, it goes up. But what we remember in our brains, the psychological component of this, right, is that the last time the market shifted, it dropped and it crashed and it bottomed out the economy. There are so many things that are different between 2008 and 2023. We've got a great webinar on that. I'll put the blog below. You'll be able to see that. Look, at business is already coming in for a listing, right? Buyers are still buying. That's a buyer's agent for a property we're trying to sell, right? So it is still happening. The product is still moving. Now we just have to say, hey, seller, do you want to move in June? Okay, now we need a better timeline. So let's get your house on the market, not in May, because it'll sell in a week. Now we got to get your house on the market in March or April, because we know it's going to take 30 to 40 days. Then we've got a 30 to 40 day escrow. So all we're doing now is adjusting the timeline. So sellers, great time. Do you want to know what's going on this week in real estate? This week in real estate, it is a phenomenal time to sell your house. If you want to talk about getting an asset valuation on your property, what is our sold score and what does that mean for you? Or you want a market report for your property so you can start tracking the trends and stats in your neighborhood, be more than happy to do that for you. This week in real estate, great time to sell your house. We have no inventory. So if you're thinking about it, we'd love to earn your trust before your business. You're valued and appreciated. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.